I am 73 years old, and today I want to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. It might challenge what you believe. It might even make you want to stop listening. But if you stay with me until the end, it could save you decades of regret. Everything you think you know about getting older, about success, about having time later, much of it is wrong. Not because you're foolish, but because no one ever told you the truth. The people who should have explained this to you, parents, teachers, society, either didn't know themselves or were too busy surviving to question it. I was just like you. For the first 52 years of my life, I truly believed I was doing everything right. I followed the plan. I built the career. I bought the house. I earned respect. From the outside, my life looked successful, and I believed it was. Then, at 52, everything collapsed. Doctors called it a cardiac event, a clean, professional term. What it really meant was simple. My heart tried to kill me. I was sitting in a meeting discussing numbers and future projections when the room started spinning. My chest tightened. The next thing I remember was waking up in a hospital bed, tubes in my arms, machines beeping, my wife crying quietly in the corner. The doctor told me I was lucky. At first, that word made me angry. Lucky? I had just come face to face with death. But lying there with nothing to do except think, I realized something. He was right. Because for the first time in my life, I was forced to stop. No emails, no meetings, no expectations, just silence and truth. And that's when it hit me. If I had died that day, what would I have left behind? A nice house, a retirement account, a list of professional achievements that no one would remember 5 years later. I realized something terrifying. I hadn't really been living. I had been functioning, moving, producing, surviving. I was on autopilot, waking up, working, chasing approval, meeting expectations, telling myself I'd live later. That's the biggest lie we all tell ourselves, and I have time. I see it everywhere. People in their 20s, 30s, even 40s saying the same thing. When I make more money, then I'll be happy. When I get promoted, then I'll slow down. When the kids grow up, then I'll enjoy life. Let me save you years of disappointment. That day never comes. The goalposts keep moving. You reach one milestone and another appears. You earn more and suddenly it's not enough. You gain status and now you need validation. You spend your life chasing something just out of reach. I did this for decades. I climbed a ladder for 30 years, sacrificing my health, my time, and my relationships. And when I finally reached the top, I realized the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. And the cruel part is this: you can't climb back down. Time doesn't work that way. No one tells you this when you're young. Success by itself is a dangerous goal. I say that as someone who achieved everything he set out to achieve. I became a partner. I bought the house. I earned respect. And each time I reached a goal, it felt amazing for about 2 days. Then the feeling disappeared, and I needed a new goal, a bigger one, a louder one. It's a hamster wheel, and it never stops. A close friend of mine died 3 years ago at 68. He worked 70-hour weeks his entire life. Built a multi-million-dollar business, never took a real vacation. He always said he'd slow down next year. Next year came, and he had a stroke. At his funeral, his son stood up and said, "My father was a successful man, but I barely knew him." That sentence still haunts me. Here's the truth most people learn too late. Your biggest regrets won't be about the things you did wrong. They'll be about the things you never did at all. I don't lie awake thinking about failed business deals. Those don't matter. What keeps me awake are the trips I never took because I was too busy, the relationships I neglected, the book I always wanted to write but never started, the evenings I didn't spend with my children because work felt more urgent. These are the things that eat at you quietly over time. You think you have unlimited time with the people you love. You don't. My father died when I was 45. Our relationship was complicated, and I always told myself we'd talk properly when life slowed down. Life never slowed down. He had a heart attack and was gone within hours. My biggest regret isn't what we argued about. It's all the Sundays I didn't call, all the dinners I skipped because I was tired. There won't always be more time. That realization changed everything, and this is where my life truly began. After my heart attack, I didn't wake up the next day as a completely new person. Change doesn't work like that. What did change was my awareness. For the first time, I understood that my time was no longer theoretical. It was real, limited, and already running out. When you truly understand that, everything looks different. I went back to work after recovery, but something inside me had shifted. The meetings felt emptier. The urgency felt artificial. I started noticing how much of my life had been spent reacting instead of choosing. I had built a life that looked impressive but felt hollow. That's when I began asking myself questions I had avoided for decades. Not big philosophical questions, but uncomfortable, honest ones. Why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? And what am I sacrificing to keep it going? Most people never ask these questions because the answers are inconvenient. I realized I had been living according to expectations I never consciously agreed to. Society's definition of success had quietly become my own, and I had never stopped to ask whether it actually made me happy. We are taught from a young age to chase milestones, grades, promotions, titles, wealth, and no one warns us that these things don't love us back. You can give them everything, and they will still ask for more. One of the hardest truths I had to accept was this: being busy is not the same as being important. I had confused motion with meaning. My calendar was full, but my life felt empty. Busyness is a very convincing distraction. It makes you feel productive while quietly stealing your years. I began to notice how often I said yes to things that drained me and no to things that mattered. Dinners with family, conversations with friends, time alone to think. I told myself I was being responsible. In reality, I was being afraid. Afraid of falling behind, afraid of disappointing others, afraid of slowing down long enough to feel what I had been avoiding. Most people don't run from failure. They run from silence, because in silence you hear the questions you've been ignoring. After my heart attack, I started doing something that felt almost rebellious. I started saying no, not aggressively, not dramatically, but deliberately. No to meetings that existed only to justify themselves. No to obligations that added nothing but stress. No to proving my worth through exhaustion. And something strange happened. The world didn't collapse. People adjusted. Some were disappointed. Some didn't even notice. And I realized how much of my suffering had been self-imposed. At the same time, I began saying yes to things I had postponed my entire life. Simple things, human things, long walks without a destination, lunches with people I cared about, weekends without plans, reading for pleasure instead of productivity. At first it felt wrong, like I was breaking some unspoken rule. We live in a culture that glorifies sacrifice, but rarely asks what is being sacrificed: health, relationships, joy, presence. I also had to confront a painful truth. I had used someday as a hiding place. Someday was where I put my dreams so I didn't have to face them. Someday I'll travel. Someday I'll write. Someday I'll fix that relationship. Someday is a very comfortable lie, because someday doesn't demand action. Today does. When you finally accept that someday may never come, you stop negotiating with your life. You stop postponing the things that matter. That's when I understood something that changed everything for me. Time is not money. You can earn money back. You can't earn time back. Every hour you spend is gone forever, whether you used it consciously or wasted it unconsciously. Most people live as if time is infinite and treat it carelessly. Then one day they realize it was their most valuable possession. Another thing no one tells you is that happiness is not found at the finish line. There is no moment where life suddenly becomes perfect and peaceful. Life stays messy, complicated, demanding. If you wait for the perfect time to live, you'll wait forever. I spent years telling myself I'd enjoy life once things settled down, but things never settle down. They only change shape. Responsibilities don't disappear. they multiply. So I stopped waiting for balance and started creating it. That meant redefining what enough looked like. Enough money, enough work, enough achievement. Chasing more has no natural ending. Choosing enough does. I also learned that regret is a quiet companion. It doesn't scream at you when you're young. It whispers, softly, patiently. It waits until you slow down, until the distractions fade, until you're forced to sit with yourself. And when it speaks, it doesn't talk about your resume. It talks about people, moments, love. It reminds you of the phone calls you didn't make, the apologies you delayed, the courage you postponed. This is why relationships matter more than accomplishments, because at the end of your life, people are the only things that follow you there. After my heart attack, I made it a rule to stop leaving important things unsaid. If I felt love, I expressed it. If I felt gratitude, I voiced it. Pride had already stolen enough time from me. I also began forgiving people I had held grudges against for years. Not because they deserved it, but because I was tired of carrying the weight. Unforgiveness doesn't punish others. It quietly poisons you. As the years passed, I noticed something unexpected. The less I chased success, the more peaceful my life became. The less I tried to impress, the more connected I felt. I wasn't doing less. I was doing what mattered. And slowly, my definition of a good life changed. A good life wasn't a busy one. It wasn't a loud one. It wasn't an impressive one. It was a present one. I learned to be where I was instead of constantly rushing to where I thought I should be. I learned that presence is the rarest and most generous thing you can give another human being. Most people are physically somewhere but mentally elsewhere. When you're present, even ordinary moments become meaningful. A conversation, a meal, a walk, a quiet evening. These things don't look important until you realize they are the substance of life itself. And this is the part I wish someone had told me earlier. Your life is not something that begins later. It is happening right now. Not after this project, not after this promotion, not after you have more money or more time. Right now is all you ever have. Once I understood that, I stopped asking, what should I be doing, and started asking, what do I want my days to feel like? That question changes everything. As the years passed after my heart attack, something became very clear to me. Aging itself wasn't the enemy. Wasting time was. The fear people have of getting older isn't really about wrinkles or slower bodies. It's about the realization that time was misused. When you understand that, growing older stops being frightening. It becomes clarifying. Every morning I wake up now with an awareness I never had when I was young. I know that the number of mornings left is smaller than the number behind me. That thought doesn't depress me. It focuses me. Most people live as if tomorrow's guaranteed. It isn't. We talk about death as if it's distant, abstract, something that happens to other people. But death isn't waiting at the end of life. It walks quietly beside us every day. That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. When you stop denying that your time is limited, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter. You stop arguing about trivial things. You stop carrying unnecessary anger. You become more selective with your energy, your attention, and your love. I see this clearly now when I look at young people, even my own grandchildren. They are overwhelmed, anxious, constantly chasing something they can't quite name. They believe pressure means purpose. They believe exhaustion means progress. They believe busyness means value. I believed all of that too. They aren't wrong because they're careless. They're wrong because they're surrounded by noise. A world that never slows down long enough to ask the right questions. That's why advice from older people often goes unheard. Not because it lacks truth, but because it lacks urgency. Until it's too late. So let me give you urgency. You are getting closer to death every single day. So are the people you love. Your parents, if they're still alive, are aging faster than you realize. One day, there will be a last phone call, a last visit, a last ordinary moment you didn't know was the last. Most regrets are born there, Don't wait for tragedy to teach you what matters. Tragedy is a brutal teacher, and it always arrives uninvited. Ask yourself this honestly. If your life ended tomorrow, would you be satisfied with how you've lived so far? Not impressed, not admired, satisfied. If the answer is no, then the question becomes even more uncomfortable. What are you waiting for? What are you doing with your time that feels so important? You're willing to gamble your only life on it. I'm not telling you to quit your job or abandon your responsibilities. I'm telling you to stop sacrificing what matters for what doesn't. Stop trading your health for approval. Stop postponing joy as if it's a reward you must earn. Joy is not a luxury. It's a necessity. Start making small, brave choices. Call the people you keep meaning to call. Take the trip you keep postponing. Say the things you're afraid to say. Do the work that feels meaningful, not just impressive. And understand this, fear will always be there. Waiting for fear to disappear before you act is another form of waiting forever. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing what matters more. If I could speak to my 30-year-old self, I wouldn't give him complex advice. I'd keep it simple. Stop trying to impress people who won't be at your funeral. Stop working yourself into the ground for a version of success that won't love you back. Spend more time with the people you love. Take care of your body before it forces you to. Say no without guilt. Say yes without delay. And most importantly, start now. Not next year. Not after this project. Not when things calm down. They won't. Life will always be messy. There will always be bills, responsibilities, and reasons to wait. If you wait for the perfect moment, you'll wait your entire life away. I'm 73 years old now. If I'm lucky, I may have 10 or 15 years left. Maybe more, maybe less. None of us knows. What I do know is this. The last 21 years have been the richest of my life. Not because I earned more money or achieved more status, but because I finally started living intentionally. I traveled to places I once only dreamed about. I repaired relationships I thought were beyond saving. I forgave people I carried anger toward for years. I spent unhurried time with my children and grandchildren. I pursued interests purely because they made me feel alive. I say I love you often and without hesitation. I'm happier now with less time ahead of me than I ever was when I thought I had forever. That's the irony no one talks about. When you accept that time is limited, life becomes more valuable. You stop wasting it. You stop postponing happiness. You stop waiting for permission to live. You realize that the life you're waiting for isn't in the future. It's in the choices you make today. You have a decision to make. You can keep living the way you are, chasing more, delaying joy, telling yourself you'll start later, or you can wake up. You can decide that your time is precious, that your relationships matter, that your life deserves your attention now, not someday. I can't make this choice for you. No one can. But I can tell you this with certainty. You don't want to reach the end of your life wishing you had lived it differently. Don't spend 52 years learning this the hard way. Learn it now. Live intentionally. Choose what matters. Stop waiting for someday, because someday is not in the future. Someday is today, and the clock is already ticking. What are you going to do with your time?